What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here with me, Sean Sheehan, on Sherdog.com. And today I'm back with another betting show as the world of mixed martial arts travels to Europe for the two biggest cards of this weekend. We have someone on a podcast this week described cards from the most beautiful and the ugliest cities in Europe. Whoever that was, they were a bad person. As the PFL goes to Glasgow, the beautiful city of Glasgow, and the UFC hauls up in Paris with the juggernaut this weekend for two pretty interesting cards. I feel like this Paris card has crept up on me and maybe a lot of people as well, and it's not a bad card at all. And in the PFL Europe, because the PFL Europe is sandwiched in between the other PFL cards and the PFL MENA. Again, it's maybe one that you weren't expecting, came up on you, and there's some good fights in this. I have a preview for it here on the Sherdog YouTube, and the usual suspects have a preview for the UFC show. So if you want to see even more on that, please check out those two previews over on YouTube. Yeah, but I'm going to touch on my bets for these cards, and we'll get into that. Before we do, let's touch on last week. So obviously we know UFC last week. I ended up giving you 3 bets and 3 parlays, and it didn't go too badly, all told. I hit 2 of the 3 bets. The one that didn't hit was Jarrah Al-Shalawi, which was a big upset. He was also in one of my parlays, the 4-person parlay, so that didn't hit either. But of the 3 parlays, one was null and void because one of the fighters, Adam Darby, his fight didn't end up happening. And then the other one came off as +122, treble of Chase and Blair, Mohamed Shafi and Lois Nkeda. So we're kind of 1-1 on the parlays. They're not too bad. And then the other 2 bets that came off was Agi Sardari, -175. I remember kind of last week that price had gone out a tad, and I still went for it, and I'm glad I did now. And the other one was George Staines, a +120. I actually haven't managed to catch that fight yet, but by all accounts, he did exactly what I said, and I was able to get the wrestling going and get the win there. So good bets from last week. Our overall record now, it's actually, we've had some good winning weeks over the last while. I think in the last 4 in a row, I've all had 2 or more wins in it, so that's very, very good. And the record here, let me see if I can find it, 73 of 141 overall. So what's 73 by 2? That's 146. So we're a good bit over the 50-50 mark for the year, which was my goal, so I'm pretty happy with that. And again, the Flyer's not great. We're 33 weeks in and only 2 have been hit. Well, will this be the week to change that? Probably not, but let's get to the other bets first. I'm going to go with 2 bets from the UFC. Going to go 2 bets with PFL, and then I have the UFC for the Flyer as well. So let's start off here with the UFC, and the first bet I'm going for is maybe an unusual one to someone, but I'm going for this based on price. And a lot of my bets recently have kind of been based on feel and initial price. The feel around the initial price, if you want to put it that way. And that's what I'm going for here as well. I'm going for Kevin Jousset to beat Brian Battle, because seeing that price of +145, and I think that's actually moved out. I'll just check this again now here in a second. That price I think could get better and better and better this week. Started off at +125, 110. And it's out now to +145 in some places. It's actually +154 there yesterday, so maybe it's evening out here a little bit, but I'd keep an eye on that. Now, the reason for this is I think this is a relatively even fight. And now he's not a massive price by any means, but again, +145, I don't think anyone would stick up their nose at it. But I think for Kevin Jousset, he's 10-2. He made his UFC debut against Kiefer Crosby last year, fought Song Kenan after that. He looked very, very good, obviously, against Kiefer, and his fight after that, he looked good again. But I think Song is kind of one of these guys that people don't think he is as much of a challenge as he actually is, and maybe he didn't get the credit he deserved for it. But the other thing about Jousset is, you look at his record, he has a lot of time in the cage. He's a lot of decisions. Let me just check here again. He's 6 decisions in those 12 fights, which is, that is a lot of time in the cage, and he's gone to 5 rounds twice. You know, he's been in there with Jack Della Maddalena back in 2019. He lost that fight, okay, but he went two rounds with Jack. And he's been fighting some good guys, fighting in Eternal and Hex Championships, or Hex Fight Series, which are good promotions. And I really think that stands to you. So he's coming in here against Brian Battle, who, you know, similar 10-2 record. You know, he's maybe more of a finisher. He's 8 of his fights have finished inside the distance, only 5 for Jousset. Not as much in cage, like never went to 5 rounds. As I said, they only went to 3 rounds a few times. He's fought some good guys since he got into the UFC with Fakhretdinov and Tresean Gore and things like that. But before that, I don't think his, the guys he was fighting were as good as the other side. Now, and right, they're not fighting their opponents, they're fighting each other. I just have a feeling that this might be a little bit of a nip and tuck fight. And the reason I brought up the point, maybe this is a bit of storytelling here to get the point. But if a nip and tuck fight like that happens, I think the guy who's used to winning those decisions, the guy who's been there 5 rounds, the guy that you know whose cardio is going to take him that long, has a bit of an advantage in those fights. Now, I could have it wrong, right? And Brian Battle might overwhelm him, and his technique and his power and his ability on the ground or whatever, something there might be more. But I just feel like going back and watching both of them, and that actually, like, I think 3 of my picks are that sort of picks today. Again, going on kind of feel based on the price. I just feel like they're both going to be together. I was looking at the price for this one to go to a decision. And I mean, let me just pull that up here again now as well. Fight Go's decision was minus 175 plus 2 or minus 205 type of that prices. Just a little bit too much for me. And I like watching him. I just think Jousset, I think he is a good technical fighter, maybe a slightly better technical striker at times than Brian. Now I do like Brian an awful lot. I think, you know, battle by name, battle by nature, he's well able to battle as well. But sometimes you just meet a guy at a stage of your career where he is, even though you have the same amount of fights and all that, he's just maybe a slight bit ahead of you. And that's kind of why I'm looking at this price and thinking maybe if it was the other way around, it'd make more sense. Now, again, the fights happen and this might be very well proven wrong, but I just feel like those extra little bit of smarts on the side of Kevin Jousset might get him over the line. So I'm going to go for Kevin Jousset in the very, very first fight there. Right. Let's go for bet number 2, staying at the UFC. And again, this is another one kind of based on feel. Now, I was actually surprised with the price on this, and now I'm giving it to you as a price. I thought it would be a little bit of a better price, but at the same time, Alan Imavov goes to a decision at minus 118. Again, thought it'd be a tad better of a price, but I think that is the value bet, I think, in this one, in this fight, when you look at him and you look at I suppose their past. Now, Imavov, we're looking for this fight to go to decision. Okay, let's give ourselves something here. Imavov, 7 fights have gone to decision in his career. He's 18 fights, so that's pretty good percentage. You know, 29% of his wins, 75% of his losses. Alan, the other side of it, 20% wins, 40% of his losses. He has 7 decisions in his 29 fights. Obviously lower than Imavov, but again, I feel like this is a little bit of a styles meet fight. Styles makes fights type of bet. You look at Brendan Allen, and you know, he went 5 rounds to a decision with Chris Curtis last time out. He went to the 3rd round in his fight before that against Paul Craig. He did get the finish. Like, he got 4 finishes in a row before that, but another fight against Muniz went to 4:25 of the 3rd round. He went to decision with Jakub Malkoun before that. So it's obvious at this stage of his career, for a guy who, you know, has a 21% decision win rate, he is going longer in his fights, even when winning them these days. And Imavov at the other side of it, then, you know, it's a similar sort of thing. He went 4 rounds and he got a finish the last time. He went 5 rounds to a decision before that. There was no contest before that. Then he went to a 5-round decision, a 3-round decision, and even all the fights for that, into the second round, decision. So a lot of decisions, a lot of longer fights for them. Again, the styles make fights part of it though. I feel like Allen, we've seen a lot of submissions from him lately, but we also see, he has power on the feet. He's well able to get the fight to the ground. He has good wrestling. But Imavov's style is kind of designed to be elusive, to stay away from that wrestling. He's only been submitted, once in his career, and that was a good long time ago, if I'm not mistaken. It was. Do you know when it was? It was 2016, in the very first fight of his career. I just have an awful feeling this is going to be... Now, I want to reiterate here a little bit. I always have to check myself when I'm talking about Imavov, right? Because he reminds me sometimes of a Wonderboy or those sort of fighters who are loose enough on the outside. But he's not nearly as defensive as those lads with his footwork and with his... elusiveness is the wrong word, but like literally kind of defensiveness might be a little bit of a better word. He's not as elusive as those lads. But the one thing I think he is I use the word defensive, so I can't use it again, but I'm going to use it again. Defensive, like in a closer space than those other lads. Now, maybe not better defensively, but he is good defensively in a closer space. And I think against someone like Allen, right, where he will want to break that space, get in, land his big shots, be careful of Imavov's, and take him to the ground when needs be. I think if you know that Imavov is good in that area defensively, but also lands his shots from there, is a good counter fighter, obviously very fast for his size and the way he fights, I think you're going to be very, very, very careful, maybe, for want of a better word, in there. Again, the first two picks, and also my last pick, they're very much based on what we've been seeing an awful lot of recently. And again, not to be old man shouts at cloud here, but when lads get to the very top of the sport these days, two things happen, right? Just what I was saying with the two lads we mentioned here. They're fighting better opponents in bigger matchups, and it's going to be harder to finish them, right? It's as simple as that. Going to be harder to finish them, going to be harder to dominate, going to be harder to even win 30-27 type of thing, or 50-40, Whereas you're coming up, and now if you're ranked number 7 or whatever, if you're fighting the number 27 or 37, it's going to be easier to finish those guys than fighting the number 8 or 9 or 5 or 6. And the other side of it then is, I do think there is a more conservative nature. Now, this is not the main event, but when we talk about the main event, we'll leave that till we get to the main event. But in these bigger fights where there's a lot on the line, like these two lads are not too far away from a title shot in a division where, Izzy's kind of out of the picture now. The past champion, Pereira's up. The past champion, he's very unlikely to come down. Let's say if Strickland gets the next one and he loses, well, you've like the 3 last guys out of the picture. Okay, we have Whitaker and Chimaev coming up. Is that going to happen? Who knows? Two of the most injury-prone guys in the sport. You're very, very close. You're right there. You are right there. And that, again, isn't always the ingredients for a barn burner. So that's why I think this one might go a little bit longer in a variety of reasons. And minus 118. I'm throwing that out there as my second bet of the week. Right. Third bet of the week. Again, this is, when I saw this, I wasn't sure if this was the right price or not. So this is from PFL Europe. And these PFL Europe prices are very, very high. Now, I'm getting these from FightOdds.io. I saw them in another place as well, and they were very similar to that. So, the closer we get to the fights, maybe I'm recording this on a Wednesday. I waited as long as I could. They literally came out today. And as I said, a lot of the prices were very big, and this one wasn't. So Conor Hughes against Ignacio Capella, I'm going for Conor Hughes to win that fight, minus 175. Now, I thought Conor would be a lot bigger of a favorite coming in here. Capella, no doubt about it, he is a very, very good fighter. But I think Conor Hughes has been absolutely superb for a lot of his last few fights and his last few outings in the PFL. Obviously, he lost the Dylan Chuk fight, and you wouldn't really hold that against him. I suppose that was such a great performance from Dylan Chuk in that one. But you look at what Hughes has. He has the power striking and the very, very good wrestling. And you look at Capella then on the other side of it then, good left hook and a good overhand. Turns vicious when he kind of gets in the other side, and he has good power as well. But I feel like I was watching one of his older fights, and he's 8-1 fighting out of Spain, has won his PFL debut against Yazan Kushain, and he also beat Jousset, who's a veteran fighting in the Anthony Pettis promotion in 2022. But was watching some of these fights for it. Now, I said that as well, right? Before I say what I was just about to say. Between 2019 and 2024, he's fought 3 times. Right? So these are his fights. 2024, 2022, 2019, 2018, 2016 twice, 2015 twice, and 2014. So this man has had 9 fights in 10 years. So again, I look at this and I say things, and it's very hard to say he's the same fighter as he once was, but there are fights he's had before against opponents that probably shouldn't have been close to him, and they made him a little bit closer. He's one of these guys, right? I watch a lot of guys in the PFL Europe and obviously on Cage Warriors in different places, and you look at him and go, this guy's a little bit green, give him 5 fights and he's going to be a lot better. To me, Capella is one of those guys who looks very good, but has never had those 5 fights in the space of 20 months to get all those improvements to wash out the issues. Whereas you look at Conor Hughes, right? He has had the same amount of fights. 10 fights versus how many fights? 10 fights versus 9 fights. He's had 10 fights since 2021. Fought 3 times 2021, 3 times 2022, 3 times 2024, and this is his second fight of 2025. He is, he lost that Dylan Chuk fight. He bounced back. He had a fight in the December and in the March. 2 finishes, 2 very good performances against, one very good guy anyway. We'll put it that way. But that's the type of fighter in a tournament like this, in a season format like this, that you need to be in order to get on, I think. And I just think Ignacio is going to have a massive problem with Hughes when he wrestles. I think he's going to have a problem with his jiu-jitsu. And I think Hughes at -175 is a real good price. I think it's a real steal of a price, and that's definitely my third bet for the week. Right. 4th bet of the week. I'm going to give you an accumulator. I'm going to give you a treble, a parlay of 3 of the bigger priced fighters on the PFL Europe, and it's going to be a -143 treble of Kaszuba, Dyer, and Robert Whiteford. Now, this Robert Whiteford fight, he's fighting in the co-main event. He's fighting against Roger Huerta in one of the oddest fights you'll see in a long time. Robert Whiteford, 16-5, 41 years of age, hasn't fought since 2022. His last fight was a no contest 2021. Before that, and then it was 2019. So in the last 5 years, he's had 1 fight basically. The other side of it, then Huerta, again, 41 years of age. He's fought once since 2019. Hasn't won a fight since 2017. He won, 1 fight 2017, 1 fight 2016, and it was 2014 before that, before he won a fight. The last kind of name guy, well, you might know Hyder Hassan, who he beat in 2017. That's a good win, but, it was Clay Guida in 2007, the last name guy, really that he beat. I think it's going to be very hard for Roger Huerta to win this fight. Robert Whiteford, not the best fighter in the world, but look, he's been in there and beaten the likes of Sam Cecilia and Ken Musa and Redzer, Paul Redmond and Martin Svensson and others as well, some good guys down through the years, no doubt about it. So he's well able to fight and all. And I think he should win this in short. The other two are a little bit, a little bit more risky. I think especially the Kaszuba one. Now, I think really highly of Jakub Kaszuba. He's 12-0. He was the champion from last year, obviously. He beat Ali Taleb. He didn't beat Ali Taleb. He beat Dylan Chuk, who I just mentioned there a second ago, in the finale. He beat John Mitchell in the finale. He beat Dylan Chuk in the semi-finals, and he beat Ken Musa this year. That's about as good a trio at this level as you'll get in a row. So very, very, very good level of opposition there, and even a few of the guys he fought before that are very, very good as well. He's a finisher as well. 7 of those have been inside the distance. The thing about Skittizi is, though, he's a lot more experienced. 20 fights now into his career. He's fought some really good guys. We saw what Dmitry Hishenko was like last week, or a couple of weeks ago. He fought him. He beat Alexander Shivas earlier on in the year as well. He beat David Gallon. He's been in there with Vladimir Tokov, Gavin Hughes, Alfie Davis, Gerard Al-Sharawi, who we just mentioned, Charlie Leary, Daniele Micheli, who's also on this card, Marvin Vittori. Really, really good guys he's been in there. Now, again, he hasn't won all those fights. He's won a share of them. But he's a guy who'll stay in there, stay with you. He's lost 7 times and 5 of them have been decisions. That's the type of fighter that Daniele Skittizi is. He really is a stick-to-it fighter. He stays in there, and he's improving to me all the time. I think for Kaszuba, if you get into a rhythm against Skittizi where you make it easy for it to be a longer fight, if that makes sense, I think that plays right into Skittizi's hands. Because if this is if there's no big hard shots in this fight, if Kaszuba doesn't get a big takedown or something like that and big elbows on the ground or lands a big knockdown or lands a big head kick or something like that, if it's a nip and tuck fight, Skittizi is very good at winning those fights. He's very good at staying in those fights. He's very good at he's used to being in those fights more than Kaszuba. But at the same time, I do think Kaszuba is a very good fighter. I think he is something special, and I do think he will get to it. I've almost been talking myself out of it there. Again, Skittizi was one of these guys that I was looking at for maybe the Flier of the week, because he's just check the price there, plus 425. I don't think he will. The price aren't out yet, but Skittizi by decision, or maybe the fight to go to a decision, I'd like to see that price. But no, I'm definitely picking Kaszuba. But I think that'll be a relatively close fight. And then the last bet was Shanelle Dyer. She's in there with, it feels like I'm being anti-Skittizi here, but she's in there with Valentina Skittizi, the sister to the brother of Daniele Skittizi. You'd have to feel sorry for Valentina Skittizi. She's 3-2 in her career now. She, very much obviously could be 3-3. And 2 of those fights have been against Dakota Ditcheva and Shanelle Dyer. 2 of those, if she does lose this fight. She also fought Lizzie Jeevers, who's a very good fighter as well. So she's had about a tough start to her career, but she's a good fighter. She's training with Danny McCormack, one of the best on-sign free agents in the world right now. So she is a good fighter, but Shanelle Dyer, at 23 years of age, 5-0, seems to be something special. Got a lovely head kick last time out. And I think her size, her jab, her ability on the field, I think will just be a little bit too much for Valentina. So yeah, that's that bet. So overall, just to reiterate, the treble of minus 143 of Whiteford, Dyer, and Kaszuba. Right, the flyer of the week is, I told you it'd be from the main event in the UFC, and it is, I'm going for Santini and Moicano fight to go to a decision, as I kind of hinted earlier on, at plus 430. Now, when I saw this price again, I'll be honest, as I mentioned, I was looking for around kind of for a flyer, and it was, Skittizi was in there. There's a couple of the other fights that I really wasn't confident on, but I do like this. Now, at the same time, I'll pull up a couple of the stats here in a second. Now, the stats maybe tell you the reason why this is, why this is a flyer and why it is that price. But, Santini has only been to one decision in his career. Moicano has been to a good few. He's been to 9 decisions out of 24 fights. And, a good few recently. 2 of his last 4 have gone to a decision against Drew Dober, again, who's a hard hitter. Dos Anjos, again, who you'd look at maybe as a harder hitter. So the couple of reasons for this one. 5 rounds, right? I think 5 rounds is a big part of it. Always when fighters, even if they're like the higher, faster twitch muscle fighters, they usually fight a slower pace when they're in 5-round fights. All right, that's point one. Point two, Benoit Anthony went in there and lost his last fight against Dustin Poirier. He won't want to lose this fight again. And usually when that happens, you don't see a lad coming out after getting knocked out, going out all guns a-blazing to get a big knockout or a big finish again. It's usually a slower, more deliberate pace. Here's where I can pick this guy apart, right? And 3, since Moicano has kind of become Money Moicano, he's become one of the most boring fighters ever. You know, I'm not anti-grappling or anything like this, but his grappling has become like the no strikes, hold you down, you know, boring Moicano, like really boring at times. And if he finds that way forward against Benoit Anthony, this could be a very, very, very long night. And also, those last 2 points could play in together. Imagine this is 2 rounds of close, on the feet, no one taking that many risks. And next thing, Moicano's wrestling plays a part, and he's able to get the takedown. And let's say he wins, you know, the next 2 or 3 rounds. I could very much see the fight going that way and kind of trailing off into a decision. Now, I could be completely wrong. Maybe Santini will come out and he'll go mad and he'll be able to stop a Moicano takedown and maybe get a takedown of himself and blast him out of there. But I just have a feeling. I have a feeling it's not going to go that way again. My feelings are often wrong. But as a flyer, for the logic that I have there, I feel like my logic may very well be false. There's no shadow doubt of that being a possibility. But there is a logic there, and I'm going for that as a flyer of the week. Right, let's touch on some of the other bets before we go. Now, from the UFC, there's a lot of ones I was very tempted by. The biggest standout bet to me that I'm tempted by is William Gomis against Gianderson Brito. He's plus 240 in that fight. That fight to go to decision as well is plus 100, even money-ish. Gomis to win by decision is just up here. Actually, I hadn't seen it before. And that is plus, actually I had seen it, plus 360. Thought that'd be a tad higher, to be honest. Considering he's plus 240 just to win the fight. Brito's a very good fighter, but if Gomis can do his best, and he doesn't always produce it, but if he can, on home soil as well, I think that plus 240, that plus 360 price for him to win a decision, I think that mightn't be bad. Might not be bad at all. Another fight that I think the price is way off is the Miranda Sharia fight. Now, I do think Sharia should be favoured, but he's minus 700 favourite in some places, plus 500 for Miranda. Again, it might be a flyer worth taking. I'll put it that way. Then Ziam Frivola. Again, Frivola traveling overseas. Ziam, he'll be the hometown guy, obviously. Minus 125, plus 110. You know, if this was in America, I probably would go for Frivola at that price. But yeah, I think maybe that's one you leave to one side. C is a big favourite. I think that's right. He's around minus 500, minus 600. Kutalaba against Arslan. Again, I've said it many times. Kutalaba. I've had good bets with him. I've had bad bets with him. Depends what Kutalaba turns up. Give me the under on that fight. Minus 186 for the under 1.5 rounds. I'll take that. I think Ludovic Klein will absolutely destroy Roosevelt Roberts. What's the price? Have we Klein by submission here? Let's have a look. Plus 500. Hold on, let me just for argument's sake here, 1 second. Let me just see what the ratio of submissions for these two lads is. So Klein, he's won 8 fights by submission, and Roberts has been submitted twice. Oh, I think I might have unearthed a bet there. Will we go for that? Do you know what? Here we go. I'm sticking in flyer number 2. I've so many wrong flyers this year. I'm sticking in one. Climb by submission plus 500. Flyer number 2. Climb by submission plus 500. And the rest in. The one guy I do like, Daniel Perez. I've watched him from years ago. He fought a couple of Irish guys. I like him in there. And Chris Duncan against Bolaki Oki. Don't know a whole lot about Oki, to be honest. So maybe I'll avoid that one. And then the PFL. Again, a lot of big price favourites here. Jack Grant against Florim Zindelli. Jack Grant's a massive over minus 400 favourite there. Ibrahim Amane is minus 1250 favourite over Danny Michelli plus 722. Michelli's not a bad fighter. Like, I think that's too big. Like, Mane should be favourite, and I think Mane will win, but that's too big. Skatizi's plus 425, minus 600 Kaszuba. Obviously, we talked about Hughes Capella. Skatizi Valentina against Shanelle Dyer, minus 600 for Dyer in there. One of the closest fights here is Karolina Wojcik against Paulina Wisniewska. I think this is a bit of a step up for Wisniewska. She looks very good so far. Wojcik has been in there with some very good fighters. The aforementioned Danny McCormack as well. You know, she did well enough in that fight with Danny until Danny won, obviously. Might go for Wojcik in that one. No, do you know what I want? I'm going to go for Wisniewska. Mark Ewan's a massive favourite as well, minus 650. Mateusz Sarowski's minus 550. Don't know a whole lot about Brian Hislop, but plus 400, you know. And then Jim Owl, I thought she'd be a big favourite, and she is at minus 270. So that is it. Quick recap on the bets for this week. First one, Kevin Jousset, plus 145. Minus 118 for the co-main event of Alan Imavov to go to a decision. Then we've Connor Hughes over in PFL, minus 175. We have a treble in the PFL of minus 143 of Whiteford, Dyer, and Kaszuba. And in the main event in the UFC, Maikano versus BSD to go to a decision at plus 430. All right, everybody. That's it from me, Sean Sheehan here at Sherdog.com. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time.